We thought this would be the Waterfall boulder, but it turns out it kind of is better as like this water's edge piece.
Yep.
And then we built, instead of this bridge idea we had, we did these two stepping stones over here.
We over excavate the area, then we place the stones where the stones look good. So if the stone is here and my excavation is way over here, that void in between is going to get filled with river rock. So it's going to lock everything in place, but it gives us a lot more design flexibility, which is the name of the game. I love this point of the day. We got boulders going in and it's looking awesome. We have that incredible selection that we picked out yesterday from Southwest Boulder and Stone. Kevin actually just ran back to get some smaller stuff. We picked out a lot of the bigger character type stone, but now what we need is some of those smaller pieces for filling in between. Remember my ratio. I always kind of fall back on these simplistic concepts and philosophies. 1 part, 2 part, 1 part. 1 part small, 2 parts medium, 1 part large. That gives us a nice blend. That could be broken into tons or however you want to do it. 1 ton of small, 2 tons medium, 1 ton of large, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So we have those medium and large that we're using the excavator to set. Those smaller ones, we have to come in by hand and we're filling in between everything. That's going to give us that naturalistic look. One of the things I'm always talking about is not only a functional thing, but also that visual. So I like that look. A big rock is going to look good because it has smaller stones next to it. We want to have those big character boulders where they're highly visible. We want to accentuate it with plantings and smaller stone to really give it that naturalistic look and feel. What we're doing now also is we're filling behind a lot of those rocks with river rock. The reason we're doing that, very, very simply, we come in with a rough area that we do our excavation. We over excavate the area, then we place the stones where the stones look good. So if the stone is here and my excavation is way over here, that void in between is going to get filled with river rock. So it's going to lock everything in place, but it gives us a lot more design flexibility, which is the name of the game. So this might be a little bit controversial because a lot of people are against anaerobic zones. So an anaerobic zone is basically an area where you have surface area, you have river rock, it's going to have microorganisms living in it. Because there's a lack of flow, it's trapped behind liner on one side and a big boulder on the other. There's a little bit of flow going through, but it's marginal. So what happens is the biological processes are actually going to consume the oxygen in that zone and it becomes anaerobic. Now that can become problematic if it's too excessive, but it's actually an important piece and it's natural. If you look at any natural ecosystem, it's not 100% aerobic. Those anaerobic zones actually complete the nitrification cycle because there are anaerobic microorganisms that will take nitrate and turn it back into nitrogen gas, which is literally what we're breathing. Our atmosphere is highly laden with nitrogen, so it has to go back into that cycle, then it will go back into the plant cycle. So that nitrification cycle is really, really important. Part of a whole nother discussion, but it's very, very important. We have to understand how all these different pieces and parts are linked together because that's the name of the game when we're talking about ecosystem construction. All right, we're working on the pumping system for our reservoir. Benjamin, what do you have happening over here?
We got the pump in the bottom of the rainwater capture system.
Okay.
And we're bringing it up and we're going to split it off into 2 directions. So we got our check valve right here, and our main 2-inch line is going to head up to our Biofalls.
Okay.
And our waterfall up there. And then we're putting a side line off here, a 1-inch line, over to a water table that Sarah's going to construct and make it look really cool.
Nice. So we have one pump operating everything, which is great to simplify that. Now, you mentioned this check valve. So tell us what a check valve actually does.
The check valve's here to make sure that basically we don't get an air pocket in the line, and any of the water isn't allowed to backflow back into the system.
Okay, which is important because with a biological filter, that's going to have the bacteria and everything, so that'll keep that full of water if the power goes off, but more importantly, it's going to keep all that stuff from siphoning back down and going back down into this reservoir where it could cause trouble and that type of stuff. So it's an important piece. Okay, so check valve in, T is in. So the next step, you're going to make a hole over here, and then we could connect up to the main waterfall, right?
Plugging in the waterfall.
Awesome. All right, looking good.
Looking like some progress has gone down.
Yeah, I'd say so. We're doing a lot of stuff. I'm just working on some of these little plant pocket details, which I know we talked about earlier.
You know I'm about that, yeah.
Absolutely, and I think this is going to open you up to a whole new palette of options because aquatic plants are incredible. I mean, obviously you don't have to water them, right?
Sure.
It's going to be inside the pond.
Sure.
They grow robustly, but they create a lot of that riparian zone that we talked about as well. You know, bring that little bit of a habitat in here, pollinators, insects, as well as it's going to help soften stuff up. I love the look of all the boulders, but right now it's really harsh. It's cold, you know, so we got to soften it up. So by doing that, I'm putting in these plant pockets. So these are shallow areas.
Yeah, so the water level is going to be about right there or so, right? So there's about an inch or two.
Exactly. And this is perfect for like creeping plants and things like that. This also, with this flat rock, is kind of a nice spot to walk in and out of the pond, if, you know, if you want. I also have some of these big zones in between some of those boulders. Those could be for large potted plants, something a little bit more.
The taros, the things like that, yeah. And then the cool part that I noticed already is kind of the way that it looks like a natural pond edge. The way this is folded in, and then the way that there's like, even behind this, there's this little rock and there's a kind of a sweep of soil coming in over here.
Yeah, I think those are important zones because it kind of blends that area where the water meets the land. So that's kind of our goal. We want to try to soften things up. So by having rocks on the outside perimeter, that's going to help scale everything. It kind of brings a little bit of that rocky feel to the outside, but by getting some of these plants in between, they'll kind of cascade over, soften up some of these big rocks. And again, I love the look of them, but they look way better when you get a little bit of greenery around them.
It was natural. And then if we go over here, we start to see the real cool piece that you kind of built in, which is what we're calling the Cocoa Flat boulder.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
It's
I
so
love
cool.
it.
We thought this would be the waterfall boulder, but it turns out it kind of is better as like this water's edge piece. And then we built, instead of this bridge idea we had, we did these two stepping stones over here. And then over here, I guess, is what we're working on now is actual waterfall.
Exactly. So it's just that big, you know, jigsaw puzzle. So we're just picking up the rocks, twist them, turn them, flip them, flop them in all different directions to try to get that visual that we're going for. We have a few things that we have to be conscious of. One is the biofilter, so we're trying to hide that, as well as create that planting pocket behind the biofilter, which is going to help disguise the big tank.
Oh, right.
And then we're also trying to create, like the one with the level over there, you can see it's really, that was one of those character ones that you and Sarah picked out, which is perfect.
And it's just that flat surface to kind of roll over, right?
The water's just going to cascade off of that. It's going to be facing right towards the main viewing area and the patio and everything. It's really going to fill the entire space with that sound of falling water.
Yeah, it's going to look good. So now, as the sun goes down, it's about placing rocks as quickly as we can, right?
Well, we're down to like the last, 7 or 8 maybe rocks that we have to place, at least big ones and a bunch of small stuff. But yeah, I think we're getting down to it. And thankfully, you started filling that up with water. So we have water in here. And when we turn that pump on,
we've been filling it for, what, 7 hours now? I want to say. But just for those of you watching, I know we're in a water scarce area here. It's probably a once fill. And then from there on out, I'll just let the rainwater, and I can actually pull from my own tank if I want to. Just flow back in with my rainwater and fill it out. I will spend 3,000-ish gallons worth of water as a real expense, and then from there I'm good.
I agree.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess we'll get the rest of the boulders in.
Sounds like a plan.